Hold up. Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step. I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bet.
Welcome back, y'all. This is the Double M Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Dinero, here with my co-host,
Puma El Gato.
What do we got going on tonight, my man?
Charles Do Bronx Oliveira is the new BMF champion. Let's talk about it.
Do Bronx. What did I say, y'all? What did I say? If you go back and watch our analysis of the fight before the fight actually happened, I gave you the 2 keys to victory for each individual fighter, and to a T, Charles Oliveira played into the key that I gave him in order to win. What did I say? I said, don't go in there trying to exchange with Max Holloway. You're not going to win. And I'll be honest with you, in the beginning rounds, I think Max Holloway was doing slightly better on the striking. Whenever he was throwing punches, he was throwing combinations, which was good for Max Holloway because a lot of it was landing. And every single time that those punches were landing, the combinations were landing, Charles Oliveira would get in his little box, and unfortunately for him, a lot of it would land. But I will say this, to my surprise, Charles Oliveira was actually holding his own as well, because when he was throwing punches back at Max Holloway, it looks like those punches were really stinging Max Holloway. So that was a little bit surprising. What also surprised me is I actually thought Max Holloway was going to be the stronger guy coming into the fight. Nah, man, the way that Charles Oliveira was forcing those takedowns on Max Holloway, he was literally picking him up and slamming him down multiple times, my guy. Multiple times. So the keys to victory for Charles Oliveira was don't try and exchange with Max Holloway, which he did just a tiny bit, enough to set up the takedown, which was my key to advice on how to win the fight. Take him into deep waters, smother him, drown him in that. And that's exactly what Charles Oliveira did, y'all. The way that it wasn't even me just saying it. DC, Joe Rogan, all those guys were all basically saying, we've never seen someone dominate Max Holloway in this fashion. And it's because, listen, the reason I picked Charles Oliveira to win was because just like with every other fight, you guys can go back and watch any video where I make a final prediction. I always pick the guy that has more tools in the tool belt. And in this particular case, Charles Oliveira was that guy. Charles Oliveira is a good striker, which was seen when he was exchanging with Max Holloway. There was certain exchanges where he was definitely getting the better of Max Holloway. In fact, even though there was only like 4 to 6 seconds left at the end, when Max Holloway did his trademark, let's do this thing, Charles Oliveira obliged them. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, one of those punches really stung Max Holloway. But regardless, what he did the entire night was what he should have done. We have a saying between me and my brother here. Do you want to look good or do you want to win? And tonight, Charles Oliveira wanted to win. He didn't care about what people were going to say. There was obviously a lot of Max Holloway fans that weren't happy about the smothering, about the drowning, about the constant pressure on the ground. But listen, the reality of the circumstances is, do you want to win? Or do you want to look good doing it? Those two can't always be the same. Sometimes they can, but in this case, they weren't. I'm not going to lie. I loved every minute of it. I'm not one of these casuals that gets mad if someone is constantly doing the wrestling or the BJJ or whatever. It's part of the game. It's called mixed martial arts, folks, whether you like it or not. Wrestling, BJJ, submissions, all that is part of the game. Some people will say, oh, this is the BMF title, so you should go in there striking. And I'll be honest with you, to a certain degree, I kind of agree with that. I'm not mad at that logic. That being said, listen, do you want to win or do you want to look good? Charles Oliveira chose to win. He deepens his pool of victories over guys, and he corrected what happened 10 years ago, which was kind of a freak win, and if you look at it, for Max Holloway. But overall, I think Charles Oliveira did exactly what he should have. He didn't exchange too much with Max Holloway, who was the better striker of the two. He fought his game, not his opponent's game, which is always what you want to do. So I think it was a great win for Charles Oliveira. He puts Max Holloway under the bodies that he's claimed, and he is now Ilia Toporia's favorite son. What do you think about that, my man?
Listen, man, what more needs to be said? This was an absolutely dominating performance by Do Bronx, and by all accounts, at least from the analysis that I've been seeing from MMA pundits, from casual audiences online on Reddit, all over, people were basically saying, yeah, this is basically a foregone conclusion. Granted, a pretty contentious one, but a pretty foregone conclusion that Max Holloway was going to take it. I don't think by any measure people were going to see a dominating performance such as this from Do Bronx. I mean, granted, the chatter is still going to be negative because they're still going to look at it as more of a, okay, he grappled with him. He didn't really stand and bang with him, which is what should be coming out of a BMF title. But we're going to put that negativity aside. The fact of the matter is, first, for beginning of the rounds, I did think that Max Holloway actually got the better of the exchanges as far as striking goes, but I'll say slightly better. If we're gonna go into the percentages as far as the exchanges goes, in the first rounds, I do think that Max Holloway was getting 60% of the strikes over a 40% Charles Oliveira, but that's when Charles Oliveira was employing more of the wrestling. I will, however, say the more the rounds went on and that Charles Oliveira actually depleted the gas tank of Max Holloway, that striking deficit, I will say, aired more so in the favor of Do Bronx than it did Max Holloway, and that's what I think was the crucial thing. Even if Max Holloway was able to get up into the fight and try and stand and bang with Charles Oliveira, and Charles Oliveira would oblige, I do think Charles Oliveira still would have gotten as much advantage as he did from the wrestling if round 5 was just going to be all banging. At that point, Max Holloway needed a Hail Mary buzzer beating round knockout in order to get Charles Oliveira, or at least get him down for a knockout in order to still secure the BMF title. But I think at that point, round 5, I think it was a foregone conclusion. Whatever Max would have thrown at round 5, again, it would have need to have been a puncher's chance for him to secure anything at that point. And I do think, at the very least, Charles Oliveira doing the standing and bang with him in the last 6 seconds, I think it was really more a concession more than anything. Like, yeah, dog, like, you're going to take the belt away from him. You might as well give him the one last shot at, like, one last chance of glory. Because at that point, round 5, dog, this was an all Charles Oliveira fight. At that point, yeah, dog, like, the one thing that I saw was storytelling throughout the entire matchup. Was round 1, Max Holloway looked at the camera and said, "Don't worry, guys, I'm still in the fight." Round 2 and round 3, Max Holloway's expression went from confident to, "Oh crap, man, this guy's a real big deal." At that point, we can already tell the BMF title wasn't going to stay on Max Holloway's hips any longer. And that's why at the end of this matchup, that's why Charles Do Bronx Oliveira is your new BMF champion. Grappling or not, you have to respect that. But what do you think about my analysis on that?
No, yeah, man, it's fair. Whenever you get such a one-sided fight, much like this one, there's not a whole lot of dissection that needs to be done. We all saw what happened. Charles Oliveira dragged him into deep waters and suffocated him. That's it. He drowned him in pressure. And for anyone out there booing and getting mad and saying, "Oh, Charles Oliveira is boring, blah, blah, blah." My guys, you guys knew who Charles Oliveira was before this. We literally talked about it. The most submission wins as it currently stands in UFC history. What about that makes you think stand and bang? You guys need to be realistic, y'all. Stop being casuals. Let's deal with it as it is, regardless of the game. Again, this is MMA. I'm not going to say I'm always the biggest fan of some of these wins, but listen, it's MMA. You got to respect it. You got it. And in this particular case, I'm happy that Charles Oliveira won, followed the plan to a T just like I laid it out. And listen, it is what it is. We got a new BMF champion. Let's see what this holds for Charles Oliveira and his family in the future. I loved it. Good fight night. One more thing, Paramount, get your shit together, because it was too many times that it went out annoying, and it went out in crucial moments where we were kind of, hanging, onto our seats, seeing what's going to happen. So get it together, Paramount. And with that, make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
Until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you in the next one.